We'll start off this webinar. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this webinar. I'm honored to start off this webinar, a joint venture of ITS Netherlands and ITS Finland. I am Marije de Nijs, the International Community Manager of the Smart Mobility Embassy, the international label of Connekt ITS Netherlands. I'm your moderator today, and together with Alex. Alex, just say hi, please. I see you. We will be we will be taking care of this webinar. So let's start off with some simple ground rules. I will put them in the chat as well. They're just like the same ones. Just please mute your microphone, type your questions in the chat. Questions we will do after every presentation. Please leave your email or your LinkedIn address in the chat so you can connect afterwards. And if you need to leave early, just please let us know. And we will record this webinar, and it will be put on the website via ITS Finland and the Smart Mobility Embassy. So that's a little bit on the ground rules. Starting off with our program, we've got a fully packed program on this subject on RTTI. You can see like a little bit on the time frame and the speakers we have, and starting off with a little bit of an overview, which I will do very quickly because I know everybody in the audience will know everything on this subject more, as do I, as Alex. So giving a little bit of an overview. Of course, it is part of the ITS directive adopted in 2010, which RTTI is a big part of. It's the ITS directive lays the foundation for this intelligent transport solution, and it has a few revisions. It's like the main revision is on the geographical point of view and extra data sets, and the exchange of public-private entities. And it looks like a little bit more like this. It's like a picture shown of CROA. It's a Dutch company, a knowledge company who says it's on these 6 data sets. And the crucial ones are number 2 and number 4. But then again said, our experts are more on this subject. So if we look at our program, we will start off with Annette. Annette van Veenendaal. She is like the team manager at NDW, and Annette will talk some more on the European public-private alignment. So Annette, if you are ready, can you share your presentation and start?
Yeah, thank you very much, Marije. Yeah, I work for the Dutch National Road Data Portal. But I'm also very much involved in the NEPCO project. So my slides will be in the NEPCO format, because I will tell something about what we are doing on a European level when it comes to the alignment between both member states as well as service providers on how to deal with the implementation of the revised RTTI-DR, and also how we want to proceed. For those who are not aware of what the NEPCO project is, it is all about the national access points aligning on how to increase the data interoperability and also the data accessibility and findability. Yes, my next slide. Maybe lots of you were at the Mobility Data Days in Turin last week. This is a yearly event, and we started with the alignment on the implementation of the RTTI-DR in 2020. So we're already almost 2 years working on how to deal with the implementation, and it's a complex one, but I think we have made huge steps forward. We started a member state RTTI task force in 2023 during the Mobility Days again. Then TISA came up with a 5-star rating proposal for data quality, and I will tell something more about it in a short time. Where do we stand now, and how do we want to proceed? And that also includes a CEF proposal, because the CEF call is now open. It will be the last one for a while. And all the big major infrastructure projects already did their claim on the budget, so there is budget left for more ITS and data related topics. So looking back in time, 2022, we agreed as NEPCOR that we should work on an RTTI action plan to align on the implementation, and we got agreement on two major principles. And the first one is that it would be easy to focus on the data, but it's very important to know what is the meaning behind the data, what do road authorities want to achieve, for instance, with a traffic circulation plan. Only if we have this discussion first, then we can have a dialogue with service providers on what data they need to incorporate the meaning of the data in their services. And the next major, why is my mouse not working for the next? There it is. The next major principle was that we should elaborate on these use cases together with the private service providers, and that is also, as Maria just explained, prescribed in the revised RTTI obligation, because otherwise we as public road authorities can share data, but they won't be usable for the service providers. As NEPCOR, we organized an online webinar with lots of different road authorities on board, and we collected the priority use cases that those road authorities want to work on. And these were the 4 use cases that came up, and we did a similar exercise in the Netherlands, and I think these are more general use cases that every member state can relate to. The first is the maximum speed, also for the ISA implementation. Then the second one is that service providers take into account the social impact that their routing advices have. So preventing cut-through traffic, avoiding school zones, taking into account the meaning of the traffic circulation plans. The third one is about having more correct information towards road users when it comes to roadworks and road closures. This is a data set which is very hard to get to a very high quality. And the fourth one is that the navigation advices of the service providers are more in line with the traffic management measures that the road authorities have put out. So you see 2 major elements in this. The first are more about providing the correct information, and the other ones are more about services in line with policies. How did we involve both public as well as private stakeholders? That was the second principle that we agreed on. Well, NEPCOR has an advisory board with different kind of members, both public as well as private. TISA and the 4 service providers you see on the slide, they are part of the advisory board, and TISA took the lead together with those 4 service providers to come up with a 5-star quality rating proposal, and I will tell something more about it later. Then we also have the TUM 2.0 platform of RTCO, and they also reached out to their communities, as well as TISA. They also have a community of both public and private stakeholders. CEDAR reached out to their community, and of course Pole is a very important player when it comes to involving cities. But what we saw in NEPCOR is that there is a missing link, because NEPCOR is all about the data accessibility, how can we find the data and also make the data interoperable between member states, but also between the different mobility domains. We have the service providers in the advisory board with the lead of TISA working on a quality rating proposal. They are the ones that have to incorporate the data in their in-car services. That's also very important that it is prescribed in the revised RTTI-DR. But we saw the involvement of the member states and the road authorities missing, because the member states are the ones that have to transpose the European legislation in the national legislation, and the road authorities have to be on board for providing the data and also indicated what is the main reason for their use cases and why they want to provide data. So that's why we started an RTTI task force of member states and road authorities that is closely collaborating with all the other partners and then we have the whole data value chain in place, and we can public and privately align how to make this RTTI-DR work. So the RTTI task force, we started with a small group of member states, but it's growing and growing, and we have now 40 member states on board, and Finland is also on board. We made a scoping paper so that we have agreement on what we want to work on. Of course, very important to fill in the gap and to closely work with NEPCOR and the private service providers on the whole data value chain and how can we make these use cases work, but also work on the feedback loop that is prescribed in the RTTI-DR when it comes to data quality. Because we all have scarce capacity, we want to focus on a particular set of use cases and then move on to the next use cases. And we started with the 3 that you see at the bottom. So the static speed limits, the planned and unplanned roadworks, and the planned and unplanned road closures. They have a lot of interest on both public as well as private side. And they are not very simple, but they are more simple than starting a dialogue about taking into account the social impact, for instance, in a traffic circulation plan. So this was a good way to start. We started the RTTI task force a year ago, so we are now in place for 1 year. And here you see all the member states involved right now. We're also seeking alignment with National Highways from England because they are doing much or less the same thing in their digital lab and are also aligning with service providers. So Google indicated to National Highways, please join forces with this European RTTI task force to make life more efficient for everybody. What have we done so far? Well, the member states in the RTTI task force agreed that Sweden and the Netherlands are in the lead for the one-on-one dialogue we have with all the industry players that you see at the right bottom. So these are more than the 4 that are a part of the advisory board of NEPCOR. And of course, we give feedback to the whole group of the RTTI task force on what our major findings are and how could we deal with this as member states together. And the main question is how can we make this RTTI-DR work for all of us and come to a win-win that will have something in it for everybody, also including the feedback loop. And what we learned from the dialogue so far is that when it comes to having better data quality, when it comes to the public side, then the interest of the service providers is merely on the maximum speed data because they all have to deal with the implementation of ISA. They do want more accurate data on the road, tunnel, bridge and lane closures, and also the roadworks, both planned, because sometimes they serve the logistics sector as well, and real-time roadworks. These are very important data sets for the service providers. Of course, we also talked about the feedback loop, and this is something that we are now thinking of as RTTI task force members on how to deal with it. They, together with the service providers, we discussed different forms of feedback. So having a dialogue with him right now, that was very much appreciated. It really helps because we collected some examples to discuss with them to get more general feedback on data feeds and systematic failures, so we can work on that. But it would also be helpful to get more specific feedback on data items. But what we learned is that giving real specific feedback that also involves effort on their side, and sometimes they are prohibited because of the licensing they have with third parties to share data that they bought with public entities, and they will share it as open data for free for anyone to use. But it would be very interesting to work on having a dialogue on a continuously basis for every quarter, and for the automatically machine readable feedback loop, we have to look at a business model also for the service providers, providing more binary feedback. We don't use your data item because that's an item level, because we see another value that they want to do for free, but providing the correct data, considering their sources, that is something that might involve a business model. So that's something we have to work on. The only way this public-private quality feedback loop is going to work when it's fully automated. So it would really help that road authorities share their data in the agreed standard and format. And also we have to work on the geo-referencing for sharing the data, because if you get feedback, then it's very important that we agree on what the actual location is. To come to large-scale deployment of better traffic management and information services, it's very important for the service providers that we align on a European level on data availability and data quality, because it's not feasible just to deploy a service for one country and not being able to incorporate that service in other countries because there are no data. When it comes to getting more easily access to the data and make more use of the data, we heard a lot that the licensing process on the national access points is right now very difficult. So we could work with NEPCOR on more simplifying that. Having the mobility DCAT AP, a recommendation of NEPCOR to have the correct metadata in place, that will really help. As mentioned before, the geo-positioning, we have to work on that, and also the correct use of standards with the right profiles. Then the TISA 5-star quality rating, initiated by TISA, together with road authorities as well. We have several workshops on this. It is inspired on the Euro NCAP rating. I won't go into detail because TISA is working very hard on version 1.0 that will be finished in December. And then in the beginning of 2025, we agreed with TISA that the RTTI task force members, together with NEPCOR, will look at this version 1.0. They're making a document with a fully explanation and elaboration on why these criteria. The first thinking of the RTTI task force was that the bar was raised very high. And the feedback loop, there should be an open invitation to road authorities to start sharing data and use the feedback loop to work on a better data quality. So that is where we stand now. We gave an update last week in Turin at the Mobility Data Days. How are we going to proceed? As said before, the RTTI task force will have a look at and respond to the version 1.0 that TISA is now preparing for the first 3 use cases when it comes to data quality. Then the European Commission indicated that at the end of January there will be a dedicated RTTI expert group with all member states to hear from them how are you proceeding with the implementation of the RTTI DR. So it would be really great if the response of the RTTI task force to the TISA proposal could be discussed there. Then we agreed with TISA and NEPCOR that the aim is to reach joint agreement in the first quarter of 2025 between TISA, the RTTI task force members, NEPCOR, where all the member states are on board. The European Commission is not the ones that have to agree on it, because it's an agreement between member states and private service providers, but it would be wise to include the RTTI expert group of the European Commission. And both TISA as well as the RTTI task force indicated that they want to proceed. So for this, because this is the final CEF possibility for some while, we are now working very hard on a CEF proposal called TIS grade. I know that TIS is not a very nice word, so we have to work on another title for the project. This is the mission. It's all about implementation to get higher data availability, higher quality, focused on a broad geographical scope, also make the feedback loop work in practice, and to digitalize data that we haven't digitized, for instance, the traffic circulation plans, or the whole data value chain is in the TIS Great project. I won't go into every detail, but for those countries who want to invest in data collection, because not every member state has an installed base yet for the static and dynamic traffic regulations. Also, tooling for the digitalization of, for instance, the traffic regulations, the traffic circulation plans, roadworks. That is also part, including the actual machine readable availability of the data. Then the third working package is all about data enrichment and validation on both static as well as dynamic data. And for this, we want to make use of working together with private service providers, because they have so many sources as well. And there are two major service providers already. They indicated we would really like to work on this, so that's very interesting. The fourth working package is the one that Hungary, Andras, will lead. It's all about upgrading the national access point to the minimum level of service that NetCoreX has prescribed. So making, if you have the first part of the data value chain in order, then it's also very important that service providers can get easily access. And then the fifth working package is focusing on the feedback loop, public-private, and how can we make this work, and also what role should the national access points play in this, and how can we get the feedback loop back to the data owners, because they are the one that have to incorporate the feedback into their data sets. And I think this is a, I hope, convincing slide why different kind of partners should join. I'm not going into details because I think I'm running out of time.
You are.
But if you need funding, please join. You can reach out to either me or Andras from Hungary. He's going to lead the NEP upgrades, and we have a meeting coming Thursday from 10 to 12. That's it on my part.
Great, Annette. Thanks for sharing your insights and giving us a little bit on our update on the RTTI task force, what they're doing and what's coming next. Looking forward to what the future may bring and what the advancements is on the CEF proposal and what the new name is. I looked in the chat and we've got two questions, and one is from Marcus Vosblom from Finland. Did you already see? He said it's quite nice that the focus is on use cases, and quite often we talk about data catalogs. And his question is maybe we should concentrate more on creating service catalogs. What's your idea on this?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting one, because it's so important to discuss with service providers what you want to achieve with data. And I think previously we were very much focusing on the data on their own and defining data quality criteria for the public side, but it's really up to the service providers to think along, how can we inform the road user in such a way that the meaning behind the data is actually in the service. So yeah, I think that's a good one. Maybe it's also something for NetCoreX to work on.
So I hope this satisfied our question giver. And another question is, which we all would like to know, but from the audience side part, is what role should or could have NAPs in the feedback loop? Are there any ideas in the audience? And maybe you don't have the answer right now, and we will get back at the end of the webinar. But give us your thoughts, and that would like to know, and we would like to know also, what should we do with it? So any thoughts during this webinar, just please give him your remarks so we can address it at the end of the webinar. So I think, Annette, this is just for now. We're running a little bit on a tight schedule. So I would like, thank you again. So I would like to introduce our next speaker. It's Thomas. Thomas is a community manager of the NTM. It's in Dutch, Nationaal Toegangspunt Mobility Data. I'm stuttering because it's a little bit difficult to translate in English. So Thomas, are you ready just to give your approach on the pragmatic Dutch approach to RTTI? Are you ready? Because the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Marije. Indeed, it's quite a long name that we have. I just shared my my presentation, so you can hopefully see how the Dutch spelling of the National Access Point, in fact, is. So we call it NTM, and it's in fact our National Access Point from the European standpoint. And I will share some sheets about our pragmatic approach to the RTTI. So we've been working on implementing this new legislation for quite a while. And I think we have made some important decisions on the Dutch side, and we've learned a lot of lessons so far that I think are valuable to share with an international audience. So I just have about 9 sheets that I would like to share with you. Just to set the scene a little bit, this is a very simplified how the RTTI implementation works in the Netherlands. So of course we work together with the European side, NAPCOR, and the RTTI task force. Thank you very much, Annette, for explaining a lot more about that. On a national level, we have our National Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management. We have, of course, the National Access Point that I work for as well. And we have our National Road Authority. And then on a regional level, we have a large number of road authorities. You can read here, there's 12 provinces, over 300 municipalities, and even a number of water authorities that also manage roadways. One of the things we have in the Netherlands is something called regional data teams, and they are on a regional level, so 6 or 7 on a national level, we can use as a sort of intermediate point to reach all of the road authorities. Of course, it's very difficult for us to reach all 350 or so road authorities in the Netherlands, and the regional data teams are a way of reaching a lot more of them and also hearing from a lot more of the road authorities. For us as a national access point, this is a very valuable asset to have, in fact. So this is a little bit the scene that we have in the Netherlands for the RTTI implementation. Of course, there's a lot more parties involved, but these are the main ones. Now, what have we chosen? We have chosen to not treat the RTTI as a sort of check the box exercise. So we haven't read the law and said, what boxes do we need to check to make sure that we stick to this law, but we have actually really focused on what kind of services, what kind of demands are there that we want to create in the Netherlands. So for the road user, what does the road user need and want, and what kind of data do we need for that? So there's a number of use cases, and they are basically a combination of the data types that are in the RTTI on a European level, and then something that we have called the Data Top 15, which is actually from an earlier program that we had in the Netherlands on a national level. And right where these two meet is where the data types are that have the top priority in the Netherlands. So what should you think about? Some examples are something I've called the base layer data type. So just data types that you need to fit the rest on top of. So if you do not have these, then it would be very difficult, for example, to correctly place speed limits or roadworks. And then there's a number of data types. This is not a list of all of them, but just some examples. So working, of course, alongside the European use cases as well of speed limits, roadworks, and road closures, and a number of the access restriction data that is very useful, for example, for the logistical sector. So definitely focusing on these use cases and then focusing on the entire data value chain. So not to create the data for the sake of creation of more data, because we all like data, of course, but to focus on, well, what does this data do in the entire data value chain, going from collection all the way to application of the data for the road user. There's a number of steps that you can read here. So we start with collecting the data that we need. There's a certain digitization tooling that we use to gather the data. Then there might be validation and enrichment of that data. Then, of course, we have the national access points to publish the data, and then the application. Just to give an example of maximum speed, so there might be a new maximum speed on a section of road. In this case, this would be from the municipality of Utrecht. There's a digitization tool called George available in the Netherlands, where the municipality can go to edit the maximum speed of a certain section of road. Then this is managed by the Nationaal Wegenbestand, which is the national road database, which might do validation and enrichment of this data. We publish it on the national access point, where it can be found by all of the different kinds of users of the data. So this might be service providers, this might be OEMs, so car manufacturers, this might be road authorities that want to use the data again, to make it as easy as possible for them to have the most up-to-date data available. Now, when it comes to RTTI, of course, it's about publishing the data on the national access point mostly. But speaking to a lot of road authorities, the message that I always give is the 1st of January, the deadline for the RTTI is in fact only the beginning of a lot more to come. Because of course, in the revised ITS directive, there's a number of digitization requirements for different data types. And we are, I dare to say, quite ambitious in the Netherlands. So we might add an extra bit of geographical scope for more of the network that we have to this digitization requirement as well. So the workload, as an indication, not a factor of anything, just an indication, is maybe limited to meet the RTTI requirements and meet the demands for the use cases in terms of the RTTI. But when it comes to the ITS directive and the digitization, there's a lot more work involved for the different road authorities. And this is definitely going to be a spike towards 2026, 2027. Now, I'm hoping that the line will flatten off as we get to the end of the 20s, because there will be more automation, for example, in gathering the data. Just to give an example, we can, of course, edit the maximum speeds as opposed to in the way that I just showed, but we might also be able to manage this automatically, because there's a legal way to inform the public about the change in maximum speed as well. And if we can automate the data extraction from this legal process, then we don't have to do this manually anymore. So maybe because of the automation, the workload will flatten out and decrease over time after this initial period of increased requirements as well. Now, this of course means a lot more work for the road authorities, and yeah, so I'll get to that in a bit, but something I like to talk about is how we approach this to the road authorities. I always say that my mission when I speak to a road authority is to make them understand this piece of legislation without having to read it for themselves, because the legislation is very difficult to read from beginning to end. It's very difficult to interpret for your road authority, for example. So this is something that we inform about to the road authorities generally, and sometimes for specific cases, but we also focus a lot on the value creation. So it's not just about law that dictates that you should do something, but the value that this might create for better incident management, better traffic management, better safety on your streets, etc., etc. There's a lot of different value that comes from a good data process. This is the situation that, of course, occurs when a road authority on the left is saying, well, if nobody's going to use my data anyways, if the service providers are saying, yeah, the data is not good enough, why should I invest my time and money in improving the data? And the service provider, on the other hand, says, well, if the data is not good enough or it's not being improved, why should I use the data? So where to start? It's not, is it the chicken or is it the egg that should be tackled first? Well, my thesis is that it should be the chicken and the egg. In fact, all of the different steps that we just saw in the data value chain should be constantly improved little by little over time. There can be more better collection in terms of more work or more automation. The tooling is going to get a lot better. The data enrichment and validation is going to get significantly better over time, especially with concepts such as artificial intelligence as well. The publication on the national access point is something that we are definitely ramping up as well because of the RTTI deadline, and the application in the process that Annette, for example, is in Europe is getting a lot better as well over time. So it's the chicken and the egg and a lot more. In fact, they are just all pieces of the puzzle that will increase the entire data value chain. Now, this is what I wanted to get to, is that, yeah, of course, this means a lot more work for road authorities, and something that we obviously all hear a lot is, yeah, we are already short on time, we're short on money, and we're short on finding the people that can do the work for us. So how should we deal with this? Especially in the Netherlands, we have something called the ravine year in municipal lands. So there's a lot of budget cuts for municipalities in 2026. So this is something that we constantly hear back. And this is a difficult message to convey as well to road authorities. But what we try to focus on is the value that this creates for the entire municipality, for example, that they are responsible for in terms of safety and traffic flow as well. And also we try to quantify what is this going to mean for the road authorities. So two different things that I think are important to tackle and that we assist in as the national access point is something to estimate the workload and the financial implications. So to quantify what is this actually going to mean for the road authorities, and then also to treat this as a large-scale transition from more traditional work as a road authority to digital road authorities. And this, I think, is something that is going to become increasingly important as well in terms of the kind of people that we need to work at our road authorities, the kind of systems that we need to assist the road authorities, et cetera, et cetera. So definitely also to focus on the transition to more digital work as a road authority. This is my last sheet. I wanted to finish off with, well, what is the world going to look like from a Dutch perspective if we do this the right way? Of course, we have a lot of focus on the road users. So I put them in the first column to make sure that we don't forget that this is what we do it for. So our future road users, they can travel around safely with all the information that they need and effortlessly without unnecessary delays or disruptions due to the fact that we have good data as well. Our road authorities can use all of the data there is to reach their public goals in terms of the safety, etc., with as little effort as possible. And our future public space is designed to meet all of the demands based on a thorough data analysis. So not just because we think this is the right way to design it, but because we know that this is the demand there is for that specific public space. And that's where I wanted to end off the presentation.
Thanks, Thomas, for your insights. It's showing the pragmatic, but also the ambitious way we have in the Netherlands, and a challenge the road authority faces. So thank you for sharing the updates. I like the metaphor with the carrot and the chick and the stick, and the chicken and the eggs, and your point of view on not or, it's both. So looking at the chats for some questions, I asked one in the chat to ask the audience to give some ideas on the crucial step for road authorities. And I think, Annette, maybe you can, because you answered this question, maybe you can tell some more on how this is doing in Tisgrade.
Yeah, because during the mobility data days in Turin, we also heard it a lot from Polis, and the city of Vienna indicated it, that we're so much focusing always on data and tooling and techniques, but it's also a whole different way of working for different kind of road authorities to get them on board, to understand why it is important to share your data for the bigger picture, as Thomas just explained, but also having the right processes in place, because you can have the tooling, but if nobody is there to look at the tooling and to work on the feedback that is provided by service providers, it's not going to work. So I also see an open invitation from Antoine. Please share data. There's always something usable within the data. And yeah.
So it's still,
so
it's a challenge.
It's also about people, getting people on board. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, so it's a challenge to get everybody aboard, not only talking about the data, but also on the workload that's going on for a lot of road authorities. I understand. Is there any point of view, not instead of from the European perspective from Annette, or the Dutch perspective of Thomas, for like the Finnish side? I know there's some people from Croatia or Cyprus. Maybe you don't have the answer right now, but please send it in a chat, because it's an interesting topic. Lots of legislations are going on, but how do we get everybody on board with everything that's going on? So I think we'll leave it at that. Thomas, thank you very much for your insights and your practical point of view. And again, love the metaphors. So thanks. We'll go to our next presenter, which I'm glad to announce as Mika. Mika, I already forgot how to pronounce your name. Maybe no you can do it for me. So if you're ready, you can start.
Thank you. Hope you can see and hear me well.
Yeah, we do.
Yes. Good morning from my side also. Mika Ahvenainen from Intertraffic, working as a development manager in issues around the national access point and open data and traffic data in all transport modes. And talking today about the role of the national access point in the RTTI implementation here in Finland. I'd like to start with just a brief introduction to Intertraffic if you're not familiar with us. We are now a 5-year-old, almost 6-year-old company, state-owned company, doing traffic management, traffic control on all traffic modes, so on land, on rail, at sea, and in the air. All the traffic management operations are handled by Intertraffic here in Finland. And of course, our vision is to help people and goods arrive safely and smoothly, and of course, paying attention to the environmental issues and promoting less polluting transport modes. In the heart of our operations is the use of data and using data-driven decision-making, producing intelligent traffic control services, and also digital services for the consumers and companies to utilize in their operations. And just some numbers, we are employing over 1,100 professionals, I think almost 1,200 professionals nowadays. One of the core operations outside the actual traffic management is the traffic data ecosystem that we facilitate and coordinate here in Finland. And the aim of this is to kind of get together all the related and necessary parties to talk about data, traffic data, how to make use of the data, how to cooperate around data, how to make things happen with the traffic data, and also how to communicate on different, let's say, legislative issues or how to communicate the needs of the data users, the service providers, or how to communicate the issues that the data producers have. And of course, when we have a lot of private companies involved in this ecosystem, it's of course also about creating new businesses or new business models or new services around this data and around travel or logistics. What we do in the traffic data ecosystem, what Intertraffic offers or facilitates within this context is, of course, the kind of the rule book. We have published a fair data rule book, how to exchange data and how to operate within this ecosystem. Of course, we offer our own digital platforms and services to be used within the ecosystem. Like I said, we do the coordination, facilitating different working groups within the ecosystem. Of course, we are compiling and provisioning, delivering a lot of traffic data. We are involved in investment and co-creation solutions with the partners here. And of course, we have the data distribution channels already available, especially within the RTTI domain. We have the kind of data delivery capabilities to the major service providers already in place. And the latest addition within this ecosystem is the export cluster, where a group of companies is joining us in efforts to export the Finnish expertise and the Finnish services and implementations to other countries also. In terms of national access points in Finland, we have not satisfied to have just one. We have at least 3, if you count them, and they are all specialized or aimed at different regulations. This is partly or mainly because of the organizational history of different organizations here in Finland and the responsibilities of different organizations. But nowadays, Fintraffic is operating 3 of them. So the multimodal and the safety-related and the real-time traffic information services and access points are operated by Finland, and the static road information is available from the digital road. There is a national legislation change process going on, and probably starting from 2026, we will have a more unified model how to also operate the maps in Finland. I'll come back to this in a bit. Now the actual brief in this presentation should be here. How are we supporting the RTTI implementation from the national access point of view? First of all, like Thomas said, it's a lot about communication, sharing information about the responsibilities or the obligations of data producers, and here in Finland, especially the over 300 municipalities are playing a key role in the future. So communication and sharing information is vital. Then, of course, working together with the data providers and service providers within the traffic data ecosystem is one of the ways of kind of get people and organizations informed what is happening, what is available, what should be available, and what should and could be done. Then we are also offering technical support related to mostly data models, standard profiles. DataX is not that familiar in the municipalities, so we are offering assistance on those terms. And of course, like the data delivery APIs, be it delivery to the national access point or delivery from the national access point. We are providing this technical support on those. And like Thomas also said, we're providing, like Thomas said in Holland, we're providing tools for data delivery, validation, and maintenance. The same applies to Finland also. In terms of data collection, we are doing data collection and harmonization from multiple data feeds already at the moment, and will be doing so even more in the future when we have the municipalities on board. And on some datasets, probably not all datasets, but on some datasets we will be creating a national harmonized datasets containing the data for the whole Finnish road network. And then on data delivery, like I said, we have the already the harmonized data feeds to service providers already in place, and then we have some API access or some APIs providing the harmonized national data feeds already available. So data delivery from the national access point is also included in the implementation support. So, like I said, we have some changes in preparation, I would say. The new laws being drafted, how the Finnish national access point should look like. I put it in the single NAP vision 2027. This is from Fintraffic side. This is something that we'd like to aim for. So we would have the whole stack from giving or helping the data producers to provide the data. Like I said, support for in the form of communication or in the form of technical tools. And then having all kinds of processes for extracting the data and validating and doing maybe some master data management, data collection, harmonization, and warehousing the data. And then also providing, of course, the catalog, the metadata about the data, then having some data delivery services, and of course the classic data delivery APIs, and also having and providing support for the developers or the service providers or the people using the data. So in our vision, the national access point would handle the whole data value chain that Thomas also showed, from the data producers to the actual data users and the service providers utilizing the data in their services. That would be our vision for, let's say, 27. I'm not sure if that's the correct year, but at least starting from 2026, we should be able to start building something like this. So that's all from my side. Happy to answer any questions or comments.
Thank you, Mika, for joining your insights there on the support Intertraffic does on the RTTI. There are a lot of similarities which you already expressed with the story of Thomas on of MTM.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting point of view, and also the aim for 2027. I've got a few questions for you, and that is how many data providers do you have in your RTTI NAP? Do you know?
Well, like I said, we are still waiting for the municipalities. So actually the number of data providers is quite low. Can count them with one hand. So only a few data providers providing the RTTI data at the moment. That's probably a bit different than in Holland, but we're getting there, getting more data producers also involved.
So I think that's a little bit more on the challenge part also Thomas already showed. So I think there's a challenge we have to face together. And the other question I had, so thank you for answering the first one. What are the most used data sets in your NAP? Do you know?
Well, the funny thing is that the most used data sets are not mentioned in the RTTI. So if I look at the based on the amount of requests or the amount of data being delivered, the most interesting data set is the traffic camera images that we produce from the whole Finland, and that's just that's not a data set defined in the RTTI as images, but of course the images contain a lot of information about congestion or weather conditions or things like that can be seen from the pictures, but the pictures themselves are not actually included in RTTI. But that's the most interesting or most used data set within our national access point.
I see, and that you have got a question also in the chat, and I think you have one now for Mika.
Yeah, because it's really interesting that you have so many images. I think that could also be a great way to validate data before they are sent out as open data. Interesting.
Yeah.
And my second question was, you also said you want to collect data. What data sets are you planning to collect?
Our first thoughts have been around the road closures, road works, things like that, short and longer term events affecting the network. That would be our first aim, to kind of get a national view on how the roadworks affect the network on a national level.
And do you already have a view on which sources you need for this?
We're working on it at the moment. We have a, I wouldn't say it's a study, but we have a consultant diving into this.
Yeah, great.
So thanks, Mika, and thanks, Annette, for asking the questions. the other questions and will be asked, but there are a few questions I think regarding still on the presentation of Thomas. We will address that some later after all of the presentations. So Mika, thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you.
And we'll do our next presenter. It's our last one for today, Olli Rossi. He's also from Intertraffic, and he will tell us some more. So Olli, if you are ready, then the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mari. Just a second, I will share my screen. No. And hope you can see my screen.
Yes, we do.
Yes, thank you.
Start.
Thank you, because I cannot see you when I'm presenting. So this presentation is from Intertraffic road point of view, like Mika presents the NAPS point of view. So the driving the RTTI compliance in Intertraffic roads point of view. Yeah. So I will give you a short, briefly introduce the Intertraffic road, then our Finnish approach to the RTTI, and we made a study and results for that, and some short descriptions about the data types definition and one use case in the end. So since Mika introduced the Intertraffic, I will give you some introduce about the Intertraffic road sector. So in road sector, we have traffic management and control. We have 3 different traffic management centers, and we have all operational systems regarding for those. We have the tunnel system, we have the VMS systems, we have the traffic light systems, we have the road weather systems, and like Mika says, there's also 1,000 cameras in the roads, and we have a camera systems, and also we have also those equipments which are on the roads are also ours, so we also maintenance those equipments as well as the systems. And then we have this 24-hour road user line in our traffic management centers. Then we have this also speed and automatic speed enforcement. We offer that for police, and also we have this border crossing points to the Russian border and to the Norwegian and Swedish border. And a sneak peek to the Finnish administrative sector. So we have here in the ministry, of course, which responsibility is the national legislations. And then we have this Finnish Transport and Communication Agency, our regulator. Then we have Finnish Transport Infra Agency, who making those service levels, functional guidelines, and international cooperation, as well as the Trafficom. And also the Finnish Transport Infra Agency owns that infrastructure, so the roads and rails and waterways and that kind of thing. Then we have this in road sector also this kind of regional centers. They are regional stakeholders and make the cooperation for the municipalities, and the responsibilities are also those regional transport system planning. And then we have Intertraffic road, and we have this traffic management and control, roadside equipment and systems, data ecosystems, what is held by Mika, and roadside equipment maintenance, and if we are doing the new tunnels and or all the new traffic lights or VMSs, we have also those constructions and planning for that. And we are making also lots of things together with this administrative sector. Okay, and our study for this RTTI regulation and ITS directive. So, like I say, we make lots of cooperation in our administrative sector. So we make a study with the Ministry, Trafficom, Finnish Transport Infra Agency, and Fintraffic together. So to clarify a little bit what this RTT Delegated Act and the revised ITS directive means to us. So, and we are limited this to RTT and SRT data types. And also, we want to know or clarify the relationship between the Finnish already the national legislation and also the above mentioned European regulations. And we present necessary interpretations to clear topics using the expert interviews. And we get this study a quite clear picture of the requirements for the digitization and distribution of the RTT and SRT data types, what means for each organizations and the relevant stakeholders and needed actions and their timeline as well. Okay, so we concentrate to these crucial data types and their connection to the updated ITS directive. Also, we have this SRTI point of view, but it's not today's topic, so I will go deeper that. So basically, the RTTI Delegated Act and the obligation for that, if we think about the Finnish map, this is the roads where we needed those RTTI Delegated Act. And for example, this national road from Helsinki to upper part of the Finland is almost 1,300 kilometers, and also this is a slightly different traffic here in the capital area than here in the upper part of the Lapland, for example. Here, somewhere here, and also the Santa Claus lives somewhere here. And for the data types in the updated ITS directive, we also noticed that there are these urban nodes here in Finland. Okay, there's this capital area and some other urban nodes such as Tampere, Jyväskylä, Kuopio, the Oulu area, and also Lahti and Turku here. And also primary roads where the total AADT exists over 8,500 vehicles per day. So we get a quite good overview for those roads where we need to concentrate in this RTTI regulations. Okay, this is the SRT, basically the same roads, but we need to forget about the urban nodes for this SRTI. Okay, about the data type definitions. So, like there says, the Delegated Act includes 47 data types, which are not unambiguously defined in the Act itself. NAPCORE has produced definition for most of the RTTI, and we use those in this study. And also this SRTI Delegated Act includes also a detailed data type. And also we have this Finnish national legislation, Digiroad law and road traffic laws, and which already handles primarily the same static data types as the RTTI Delegated Act. And in our study, we concentrate the RTTI data that already have a corresponding type in the national legislation, and Digiroad service has been identified. So like Mika says, we have those two maps at the moment for the static infra data. We have this Digiroad, and for other data types we have this Digitraffic. So we made this kind of tables for each data types, and we take the NAPCORE definition for that. Then we check that is it already in the national legislation, and how is it included at the moment to our NAP in the Digiroad or in the Digitraffic. And then we check the every data types and make some notes regarding of that. Is it included or not in the data? So there's quite many tables. I will not present these more, but just showing you quite few about. So for example, the RTTI crucial types of the data on the state of the network, road closures, lane closure, roadworks, temporary traffic management measures. We already have quite many those data types which are including in the Digitraffic or Digiroad maps. Then there's these other types of data, and then also we found out that there's lots of different weather-related stations here in Finland. In the roads, we have lots of different data what we are already have been shared for many years, but not included in the data format. So we need to make some changes that in the related to this RTTI, we need to also give those weather related data in the data format. Okay, there's some data which we are not yet sharing, but this is the good table for what we need to do in the coming years. Okay, and also we make this similar for the SRTI types. So then in our study, we take these the roles and responsibilities, which responsibilities and which data belongs to the Fintraffic, which is what is the Trafficom roles, what is the Finnish transport infra role, what is the municipality roles, what is the central economic development, those regional stakeholder roles, and what is the recharging and refueling related stakeholder roles, what is the service provider roles. And last but not least, our use case, what we are thinking about and how we are approached with these different data sources. So we have think at the moment this kind of data pipeline approach. You can see that there is a different data sources, and we analyze this available real-time traffic information and trying to integrate that data with the existing our comprehensive traffic services. And we have prepared for a study of how we can use these different third-party datasets and how we evaluate that data and how we added that to value and how we can add value to the traffic management processes as well as the informative services. And for example, this example in here, so we have this traffic event car crash. They're coming for the emergency call, or we get the e-call message for the emergency center, and then our traffic operator, they get the event info. They have this kind of infra data, maintenance data. They have kind of digital twin info in their desktop. Then we have added, and related to that, these are quality rate, for example, max delay is 180 seconds. Then we give an unprotected accident area, and after that, it's going to directly to this data for roads ecosystem, and then the car dashboard could give that kind of info message that there is an accident. Then when there is for example, rescue in the field, there is changes to the RTTI message, and it's just the accident and incident message. There is might be a lane closed. Then we can get the RTTI message to the location and length of the traffic use, and then the last one is the situation end messages for the SRTA messages. And I think I'm over time at the moment, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Olli. Thank you, Olli. A little bit over the time, but I think the 4 minutes extra, they were used up by the other ones. So thank you. It was not only a sneak preview, which you started off your presentation. It was more than a sneak preview. So thank you for sharing the aim of the study, the roles and the responsibilities, and the use case, and your data pipeline approach. So thank you very much. I looked at the questions, and I think because we still got 15 minutes left, there are a few questions left. And I think, Olli, that maybe we'll give the attendees a little more time just to give you feedback on your presentation. There's one that was still pending. It's from the Netherlands. It's from Rijkswaterstaat. I would just have to look it up. Or maybe, Louis, you can ask the question yourself. Maybe you're quicker than I am, if you're still there. I will have to look it up.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, could you ask your question again? Thank you. You're quicker than looking back to the chat.
Oh, I had many questions, but let me go check. So I think it was about the organization. Oh, it was sorry, where's my question? No,
yeah, it's on the digital readiness of, yeah.
There are so many questions.
Yeah, the one you asked, what will be the crucial for Finland on an organizational level to make steps forward?
Exactly. So there's a lot of technique going on, development and innovations. But in the Netherlands, we have already a long history on organizational level to become as far as we are now. So my question is for Finland. What was for Finland or will be for Finland on the organizational level, meaning the cooperation, for example, between a ministry and a road operator? What is crucial or will be crucial? So that's my question. So it's all about organization and people as well to enable these the deployment and developments.
And just to explain, like Louis is from the Dutch Road Authority, so it gives a little bit more perspective on his question. So, Mika or Olli, do you know, or somebody else from the audience?
That's a really good question. Trying to look at it from my point of view, from the national access point of view, is that I think the organizational change that we did almost 6 years ago, when we put all the operations, traffic management road authority operation, the traffic management operations to a state-owned company, which then has a lot more, let's say, flexibility to implement things and do cooperation with different stakeholders than the agency had before. I think that's one of the kind of key elements of how to kind of approach this on an organizational level, just to make some room for different kinds of actions. That's one of the things. Another one would be to kind of agree on a national level on how to or agree on the vision and agree on the kind of level of excellence that we want to be on in the future. That's kind of we still lack some common visions or common parts that we need to discuss on. How do we want to approach this? How do we want to build this? How do we want to operate this? Especially around the national access point, we need to kind of make the common vision for the administration. But Olli, do you have any ideas on the?
If I may think about the digital ITS point of view here in our administrative sector, it's quite few people who are involved in every project. So I think it's not on the organizational, it's more on the people, just who you know and what are those opinions. Yeah, more of that.
Yeah, I recognize this. I think that's the case in many member states. The community is still very small, but we know it will impact many colleagues who are acting in the whole mobility world. So let's keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. There was another question on, I think actually from Annette. In the Netherlands, we've got school zones, and we were wondering if there is in Finland like the same sort of project going on in Helsinki, just to make sure if there is.
Yeah,
do you know like, yeah.
Yeah, because it was the Talking Traffic project was mentioned, and I know that Helsinki, together with Porto, is working on, it was either the school zones or the roadworks validation. But so I think it's very interesting with these kind of webinars and the work being done in NEPCOR, etc., that we start sharing best practices, because I said earlier in the chat, let's not invent the wheel all on our own, but help each other, and also share what you have learned not to do, also very valuable.
Okay, thank you, Annette, for just explaining a little bit more. And I've got a question myself on maybe to our Dutch audience, and maybe Louis, you already explained this some more, but from a Dutch perspective, how do we engage and persuade road authorities to become digitalized? So you asked the question to Finland, but I think there's still a few questions left for the Netherlands as well. Also regarding to the explanation of Thomas, we've got a lot of work to do, but how do we engage everybody? So we asked the Finns, but I think in the Netherlands, we've got some challenges as well. So how are our point of views on that? Because Annette, from you, it's a European perspective. Thomas also already said the same question. So for the Dutch people, like Louis, maybe you can answer this question.
Yeah, like Thomas already explained, I think we have a big advantage. We started years ago already, for example, with cooperation with the region colleagues who are focusing on data, and they discussed what are the main data types, which we nowadays call crucial data types. So they were already in the right direction. So we are a bit lucky that we started already 15 years ago, when the NDW was organized 15 years ago. And that tells us it takes a lot of time to organize, to collect the people you need, to develop the knowledge you need. And in the Netherlands, we now experience, to be honest, that many municipalities who are also working on road aspects, like traffic management, they are totally lost still what's happening on European level. So what we all have to do is, what is mentioned, communicate, invite people you really would like to know because you think you will be involved or your organization will be involved. So that takes a lot of time, and also experts. And what I see also today is fantastic. You are really able to explain something that is very technical, which is started from a legal point of view. So that's what you also need, people who can explain. But still, also for the Netherlands, it will take a lot of time. And another enabler, hopefully, maybe also in the other member states, is there is, I think, a lot of, from the ministry point of view, there's a good, we need a policy that's a reason to improve, for example, road safeties. And then you ask a road authority, please become a digital organization. That's a huge step. That's almost impossible. So a road authority needs money and time and policy lines. And on the other hand, if you become a digital road authority, what KPI do you need? So the definition of KPIs is also important, because you need, you have to do the right thing. So we have to define, I think, new types of KPIs that will explain that it is logical to become a digital road operator, to deploy the services we really would like to give to the end user. So these are all simple lines, and I think you all agree with this kind of things, but you have to contact actively the municipalities in this case to help them.
Okay, point taken, Louis. And I think we all smiled when we said, okay, there's a lot of legislation going on, and having an organization like road authorities going digital, everybody smiled, because it's difficult to get everybody on board. And in the Netherlands, okay, started off 15 years ago, it's maybe a plus, but we still got some challenges.
But let me say one thing. It's when you talk with your friends who are in a total different business, and you use the word digital, and everybody still becomes much more interested because it's happening in many areas. And the nice thing about mobility is it's like talking about football. Everybody knows something about it, and everybody has a meaning about it. So you directly have interest, and especially when you tell something about the car becomes a computer, and you have the knowledge to tell something about it. And what I experience, people are really interested in it.
Yeah, that's true. And on traffic, in the Netherlands, we talk about the weather a lot, but this is certainly a second one, because everybody's going from A to B, and especially today when the trains aren't working. So that's the thing as well. I see we've got we only got 4 minutes left, and I would like to wrap up this webinar. And I'm sorry if I just didn't address one or two questions, but that's maybe good to get things going on. So I think this is an interesting topic which should, it deserves a second one, I think, when there are more updates. So starting off with a little bit of a wrap up. So Annette, thank you for giving us some more directives on the European RTTI task force. Thank you very much. Hope you keep us posted on the CEF proposal. Please do. And Thomas, on the Dutch approach, it's a pragmatic one, but we still have some challenges facing ahead. Mika and Ollie, thank you from your perspective from Finland. It's very useful to us, and sharing a lot of on pilots, on researches, on projects. So thanks very much. So on behalf of ITS Finland, Alex, just say hi again. You're still there.
Hi everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar today.
Yeah, and thank you, Alex, for helping along with the chats and the technical parts of this webinar. So thank you again. Thank you to our presenters. We will, as said, we have recorded this webinar, so we will put it on the websites of ITS Finland and the Smart Mobility Embassy. So that's not a worry. And remember to stay tuned for coming webinars, because these collaboration with ITS Finland, Connekt, ITS Netherlands, and the Smart Mobility Embassy is a great one, as proven over the last 2 or 3 years. So, and I hope to see you in Seville on the ITS European Congress. We are still working on a collaboration there as well. So I hope to see you there. So thanks again for being part of this webinar today. We look forward seeing everybody on future events, and I wish you a very nice day. And as said, let's talk some more in the near future. So this is the end of the webinar. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye and thanks.
Bye-bye. Thanks.